I've worked in corporate America for 8 years, and I've been a content creator in varying facets for a decade plus. And across both professions, I have received praise and criticism for my work. Now, in the early days, when I had a head full of hair, the praise had me high on happiness, while the criticism equally weighed me down with insecurity. And this emotional elevator I was riding was very exhausting. That wasn't until I learned, and dare I say it, the most life-improving skill I've learned in the 3 decades I've been living. And that skill is being even-keeled. Now, the benefits of being even-keeled is that you remain well-balanced and unruffled in any situation, which is easier said than done. And so if you spare me a few minutes of your time, I want to show you several simple habits that, if prioritized, can help you keep an even keel. Now, in case you're unfamiliar with this expression, when it is used to describe a person or a situation, even-keeled means being calm, steady, balanced, and not given to sudden changes in mood or behavior. In other words, praise won't put you on a mountain, and criticism won't put you in a valley. Unexpected outcomes won't excite you, and shortcomings won't disappoint you. Raise your hand if you felt that, and share your initial thoughts about what I'm expressing here in the comments. Now, as intriguing as this sounds, I have to keep it real with you and also mention that this skill is hard to learn and master because we're human and we have emotions. However, the sooner we learn and eventually master this skill, the more stable we'll feel regardless of the situation. Now let's talk through the habits that can help us develop this skill. The first habit on my list is to recognize your triggers for negative emotions. So what is it, whether it's criticism or something else, but what is that thing that puts you in the valley? And I'll give you some very real examples from my own life. The first example I want to share with you is being a creator here on the YouTube platform and producing videos and making content on a regular basis. I remember there being several moments where I would create a YouTube video and I would put that video out, and I had a certain expectation for that video. And if that video's performance came up short to the expectation, I would allow that to trigger a response within me and put me in the valley, whether it was for a short period of time or for the entire day, right? And maybe you can relate to this, but slightly different. And here's what I mean. Maybe there is a person in your life, a relationship that you have, or the lack of a relationship that you have, and you have a certain expectation for that person, and they keep coming up short. Or maybe you have expectations for yourself and you're being self-critical because you keep coming up short to those expectations. And all of these emotions are putting you in a valley. I'll give you another example. I remember working in corporate America, my first 2 or 3 years in corporate America, and I remember making some pretty big mistakes on certain projects that I was working on. And I allowed those mistakes, even though I was learning, even though I was brand new on the job, even though there was room for error, I allowed those mistakes to put me in a valley. And while being in the valley, I wore that emotion. It was clear that I was bothered by those mistakes, right? So again, I want to urge you to think about what is it in your life, whether it's a certain situation, a certain person, a certain comment, a certain relationship that you have that triggers a response within you that puts you in the valley. What is that? Because recognizing what that trigger is the first step towards moving toward a more even-keeled attitude in the future. The second habit is learning how to change your reaction to those triggers. So what habits can you develop? What mindset shifts can you implement that can help you shift your perspective and encourage you to react off of emotions less often? And here's how I did that within the examples I just shared with you. So as a content creator, when I make a YouTube video, I've learned and I've gotten really good at taking a more strategic and intentional approach to my content creation process. And I've shared a video previously where I walked you through my Notion workspace and how I plan my videos and how I think through each step before I sit down and record. And that's really helped me because it allows me to set a video's intention first before I sit down and record. And having that intention set helps me manage my expectations for the video. Here's what I mean. When I post a YouTube video, I'm no longer reacting off of emotion based on that video's performance. I'm reacting off of whether or not that video has hit and has met the intentions I've created for that video. And if it has, then that's a win. So again, I urge you to think about the triggers that you have in your life. What are those things that are putting you in that valley? And then ask yourself, what habits can you implement? What mindset shifts can you implement to help you change the reactions you have to those triggers? The third habit is to pick up a mindfulness practice such as journaling. Now, I'm biased here because I'm a poet and I love writing, and I firmly believe that journaling is the best solution for mental clarity. And I'm saying that because I'm speaking from experience. Now, a big part of remaining even-keeled, regardless of your circumstances, is having a well-managed mindset. And there are 2 steps to do this effectively. The first is to unburden your working memory, and the second is to unburden your heart. Now, I can dive into this in great detail in a separate video if that's something you're interested in, so let me know down in the comments if so. But to add a little bit of context here for the sake of this conversation, here's what I mean. The first step is to unburden your working memory. And your working memory is the same thing as your short-term memory. And this is the first space to become cluttered in our minds, to become filled up with stuff. And although our brains are massive machines that can process a ton of information, our working memory is sadly limited compared to our long-term memory. So it is wise that we unburden our working memory so we're less likely to make unwise decisions and careless mistakes. So now you're probably wondering, okay, what is that information? What is it that is filling up our working memory and causing us to make these unwise and costly mistakes? Great question. And the answer is our overly long to-do list. So think about the chores you have around the house, the errands you want to run, all of the events and commitments for your kids, the commitments you've made for yourself, work decisions, personal decisions. Everything that we continue to tag on at the end of our to-do list is taking up space in our working memory. So then when it's time to make a decision, we're already at capacity. And now we're making a decision based off of emotion rather than thinking through it. So unburden yourself by putting everything that is in your working memory down on paper. Now you can prioritize what's important, get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter, and work through that list in a way that's more manageable, in a way that makes sense. And the second step is to unburden your heart. And here's a quote that I think sums this up very well. Emotions that are not dealt with create congestion in our minds. Emotions that are not dealt with create congestion in our minds. See, what we don't realize is that when we have many different emotions that we're holding on to in our hearts, when we're holding on to those things, they're also cluttering our mind. So think about guilt, think about resentment, think about sadness, think about anger, think about limiting beliefs. All of these different emotions are cluttering both our hearts and our mind. So it makes it very difficult to maintain an even-keeled perspective toward our situation or toward our circumstances because we're filled up with emotions. So therefore, we're going to react based off of emotions and not thinking through it and having an even-keeled perspective. So you want to unburden your heart. You want to write down those emotions and release it from your heart, release it from your mind, and work through it on paper. That way, it's not taking up space up here and it's not taking up space in here. And when it's time to make a decision, when you're faced with a certain circumstance or when you're face to face with a certain person in your life, a certain relationship, you can have an even-keeled perspective and navigate it from that place rather than a place of built up emotion. All right, I digress. Let's keep going. Habit number 4 is exercising consistently. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, what does exercise have to do with keeping an even-keeled perspective? Well, exercising is a great way to manage stress, overwhelm, and many other emotions. In fact, it's a great way to release emotional buildup. I can't tell you how many times I felt frustrated about something or I was emotional about something. And the moment I started working out or when I would go for a run, how satisfying it felt to release those emotions. And the clarity I then had afterwards to then navigate how I felt and come up with a solution. So I encourage you to develop a habit of walking, running, exercising, lifting weights, playing a sport, whether it's competitively or not, biking, swimming, just doing something to get yourself moving. And doing so will help you release any emotional buildup you have emotionally within your heart and mentally within your head. And again, this goes back to the idea of having a well-balanced mindset, a well-managed mindset. Because when your mindset is managed well, then you're more likely to have an even-keeled perspective going forward. The 5th habit is to follow a decision-making process that isn't based solely on emotion. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been in plenty of situations where I was making decisions based off of emotion, and not thinking through it. I wasn't using my head. And as you can imagine, this led to costly mistakes and unwise decisions. And so when I first started this journey of decluttering my life and this journey toward more clarity, there are two things that I was certain of. The first was that my identity was closely tied to my possessions, and I knew that I would struggle with decluttering certain things. And the second is that I didn't want to continue down this path of making decisions solely from my emotions, because I knew myself, especially when it came to decluttering. I knew that I would make excuses to keep just in case items for just in case moments that historically never happened. So I needed a new way. I needed a new thought process. And so I came up with this decision-making process that guides me through making my final decision. And I use this decision-making process for decluttering my life, but I also used it to help guide me toward making my final decision to quit my corporate job and bet on myself full time. So here's what my decision-making process consists of. There are 6 questions that I like to ask myself, and then a final scoring exercise to help guide me toward my final decision. Let's walk through those steps together. The first question that I like to ask myself is based on my values. And here's the question. Overall, will this decision pull me closer to my core values or away from my core values? And I rank my answer on a scale of 1 to 5, and 1 equals disconnected from my values, and 5 equals completely aligned with my values. The second question is based on impact. How much of a positive impact will this decision have on my life? And again, my answer is on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 equals very little impact or little impact, and 5 equals huge impact. The third question is all about effort. So how much time and effort will this require? 1 equals a ton of work, and 5 equals almost no work. The fourth question is what I like to call a gut check. And I like to ask myself, am I emotionally at peace with this decision? And this is huge. If I'm not emotionally at peace, then I know right there that's not the best decision for me to make in that moment. So am I emotionally at peace with this decision? And again, I rank my answer on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 equals not at peace, and 5 equals completely at peace. Question number 5 is a knowledge check. So do I have enough information to make a sound and informed decision? 1 equals ill-informed, 5 equals well-informed. And the 6th question is all about the vision I have for my life. So how close of a fit is this decision with my vision for my life? 1 is not close, and 5 is very close. So after I consider the decision that I'm currently contemplating, and I run through these 6 questions and I rank my answers on a scale of 1 to 5, I then take the sum of those answers, divide it by 6, and I get an average score. And that average score is what's going to help inform me of what my final decision should be. It gives me great insight into the impact of my decision. Now the average score should fall between 1 and 5. 1 equals needs further consideration, and 5 equals strongly consider. If your average score is leaning towards a 1 and a 2, then that should tell you that you need to further consider this decision before making it. You're not at peace yet. You're not emotionally at peace. Maybe you don't have enough information. Maybe it's pulling you away from your values. Maybe there's some more things you have to figure out before you make that decision. Or if it's leaning more towards a 4 and a 5, that's a great indication that, you know what, I think I have everything I need to make this decision with confidence and with clarity, and I should go ahead and take the next step. All right, so if you want to grab a copy of this decision-making process for yourself so you can use it, whether it's for your decluttering journey or some other decision that you're working through right now in your life, just go to ronaldlbanks.com/decisions. You can download a copy for free there. Okay, so after taking in all this information I've just spewed out, why does this matter? Well, when you lead with an even-keeled perspective, you are not allowing the ups and downs of a season to get to you. Since life and the life around us is ever-changing and constantly evolving, there's only so much within our direct control. And the best thing we can do is control the controllables. I hope you consider this perspective and work toward a more even-keeled attitude going forward. Keep growing on your journey, my friend. Keep learning. At the end of the day, remember to always stay true to you. See you in the next one. Peace.